Daniel Carter was born on a rainy October night in a small, forgotten town in Ohio. A town people passed through but rarely stayed in. The hospital lights flickered as his mother held him close, whispering promises she didn't know how she would keep. Outside, the factory sirens wailed, calling men to night shifts that barely paid enough to survive. Daniel's childhood home was a narrow, aging house with cracked paint and a roof that leaked every spring. When it rained, his mother placed buckets across the floor. When winter came, cold air slipped through the walls like an unwelcome guest. Yet inside that house lived something powerful: hope. His father, Robert Carter, worked 12-hour shifts at a steel factory. His hands were always rough, his back always tired, but his voice was gentle when he spoke to Daniel. "Son," he would say, "we don't have much, but don't ever believe you can't become more." Daniel believed him. At age 10, Daniel woke up before sunrise to deliver newspapers. His bicycle squeaked as he rode through empty streets, fingers numb from the cold. Some mornings he fell. Some mornings dogs chased him. But every afternoon, he proudly handed his earnings to his mother, who smiled like he had given her gold. School wasn't easy. Daniel wore the same shoes for years. Other kids noticed. Teachers noticed too, but not always kindly. Still, Daniel found peace in the library. Books became his escape. Stories of immigrants, inventors, and self-made men showed him a world bigger than his town. He read about failure, persistence, and opportunity, and slowly, a dream took shape. He wanted more than survival. He wanted purpose. When Daniel graduated high school, reality hit hard. College acceptance letters came, but so did tuition fees his family couldn't afford. His father tried to hide his disappointment. His mother cried quietly in the kitchen. That night, Daniel stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain drip through the roof. For the first time, doubt crept in. Was the American dream real? Or just a story told to people like him? Instead of leaving town, Daniel took a job at a grocery store. 8 hours a day, he stocked shelves and smiled at customers who barely noticed him. At night, he walked to the public library and taught himself computer programming using old computers and free books. Sometimes the librarian had to remind him to go home. There were days he wanted to quit, days when exhaustion crushed his spirit. But every time he thought of giving up, he remembered his father's hands and his mother's quiet strength. Years passed. At 23, Daniel rented a tiny room above a laundromat. The noise was constant. The air smelled like soap and steam. But in that room, something special was born. Daniel noticed how local businesses struggled with deliveries and organization. Using his skills, he built a simple mobile app to help them manage orders. It wasn't perfect. It crashed. It failed. He rebuilt it again and again. He emailed dozens of businesses. Most never replied. Some rejected him harshly. Weeks passed with silence. Daniel stared at his inbox every night, heart heavy. Then, one evening, a single email appeared. "We'd like to try your app." That one chance changed everything. The business loved it. They told others. Slowly, word spread. Daniel reinvested every dollar. He skipped meals. He slept on the floor. He worked until his eyes burned and his hands shook. Success didn't come quietly. It came with problems. Servers crashed. Clients complained. A business partner walked away, taking money with him. Bills stacked up. Failure hovered close. One night, Daniel sat alone, staring at his computer, ready to quit. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I gave everything." And then he remembered, everything is what it takes. He stood up and kept going. 5 years later, Daniel Stew. The small apartment in South Chicago was quiet except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant sound of sirens outside. Ethan lay on the thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, his heart beating fast, not from fear, but from hope. Today was American Idol audition day. Ethan slowly got up, careful not to wake his mother. She had worked a double shift at the hospital cafeteria and had come home exhausted. His younger sister, Lily, slept on the couch, hugging the old guitar Ethan had bought from a pawn shop years ago. That guitar had been his only friend when the world ignored him. Ethan's father had left when he was 10. No goodbye, no explanation. Just an empty chair at the dinner table and unpaid bills piling up. From that day, Ethan learned 2 things early. Life was hard, and dreams were expensive. Music entered his life accidentally. One night, after a long day of school and work at a grocery store, Ethan found the guitar lying in the trash behind a music shop. One string was broken, the wood scratched and dull, but when he fixed it and played his first chord, something inside him healed. He sang quietly at first, then louder, on buses, in empty stairwells, in his room at night, when the world felt too heavy. Music became his voice when no one listened. The American Idol audition hall was massive. Thousands of people stood in line, some confident, some nervous, some already crying. Cameras moved everywhere. Producers shouted instructions. The energy was electric. Ethan stood silently, gripping his audition number 43872. He wore his only good jacket. His shoes were worn, his hands shaking. When his turn came, the door opened slowly. Inside sat the judges, legends whose words could change lives. The American people are not defined by a single face, language, belief, or history. They are defined by movement, of ideas, of cultures, of dreams. From the earliest indigenous civilizations to the newest immigrants arriving with hope in their hearts, the American people represent one of the most complex and dynamic human stories in the world. To understand America, one must understand its people, their origins, their struggles, their values, and their relentless pursuit of a better future. Roots before the nation. Long before the United States became a country, the land was home to Native American tribes with rich cultures, deep spiritual beliefs, and advanced systems of governance. Nations such as the Cherokee, Navajo, Iroquois, Sioux, and many others lived in balance with the land, passing down traditions through storytelling, art, and ceremony. Their contributions to agriculture, democracy, and environmental respect form a foundation that is often overlooked but deeply woven into American identity. The arrival of European settlers in the 16th and 17th centuries changed the course of history. Seeking freedom, wealth, or religious refuge, these settlers brought new customs, technologies, and systems, but also conflict, displacement, and suffering for indigenous peoples. The American people were born from this collision of worlds, a mixture of cooperation and cruelty that continues to shape the nation's conscience. A nation built by immigrants. One of the defining characteristics of the American people is immigration. Generations of immigrants arrived from Europe, Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East, each. At school, Daniel was smart but quiet. He wore the same clothes every week. Some classmates laughed. Teachers noticed his silence. One day, a teacher asked him, "Daniel, what do you want to be when you grow up?" He answered softly, "I want to be free." That night, Daniel promised himself one thing. "I will not die poor. I will change my family's story." The first failure. After high school, Daniel couldn't afford college. He worked at a grocery store, stacking shelves for minimum wage. Long hours,